All right, welcome everyone. Thanks to Marie and Geof for joining me, Tracy Sprower with Met How at Home for this conversation this morning. And welcome to any of our viewers who are coming to just experience who Geof and Marie are. I'm really excited that you two are going to be coming to the Valley and sharing a really important conversation with us here of this theme of grace, grief, and gratitude, as it's so part and parcel to this being human, that we face a lot of loss, all kinds of different losses. And how do we do that together? How do we turn towards um, that pain and also the opportunities that lie in that experience of being real with ourselves and with each other? And so I am excited to get to know you two a little bit more through this conversation, and I'm excited for our community to get to know you two a little bit more. So I'm going to pass the microphone over and just let both of you introduce yourselves briefly, and then we'll jump into our conversation. So Marie,
Great.
tell us about
I'm
yourself a
thrilled
little
to
bit.
be I'm thrilled to be here with you both today. And Geof and I are really looking forward to our visit to the Valley and the ways that we can foster this conversation. So I live in Bellingham, Washington, and I am the community champion for the Palliative Care Institute at Western Washington University. And Geof and I have been companion songwriters for many years. So I think both Geof and I have discovered the use of writing in its varied forms as a way to negotiate some of those life challenges, life transitions that you were talking about, Tracy. And I think part of what we hope to offer in this weekend of grace, grief, and gratitude are some different ways that writing and the creative life can enrich these times of sorrow and loss, and find the complexities that of both joy and renewal in those life events. Geof.
That was great.
Thank you.
So everything Marie said, yes, I am excited to do this with Marie and come to Methau and Winthrop to do this with Marie. And I have a history as both a songwriter and performer and as a community organizer, um, and have worked with Marie over the years and been delighted to share a lot of different kinds of work with her.
Mhm.
Did some AIDS work together and um, years ago, and um, and have been done a little bit of palliative care work. Mostly, I was support to the work that Marie's been a champion of, and in our community. And I agree that I think this is a. I mean, we'll talk more about this, I think, with the questions, but this this is a an important time in my life to think about what it is to be here with each other, um, as many of us are aging, and 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 what it is to celebrate the transitions that we're all that we are seeing and experiencing, and some of the hardship and grief that comes with that, and at the same time the joy that has come from being able to share our lives together.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, beautifully said. Thank you both for that. So I would just love to know a little bit more about your backgrounds and just what led you down the road to music and writing.
So let me start. I laughingly put in our little promo piece that collectively Geof and I have been writing songs for over 100 years. We both came to songwriting as quite young people. I was part of the folk revival in those early days in the middle 60s and 70s, and I grew up in a very musical family. And so the idea that music was part of the fabric of our lives was important. But finding my voice as a songwriter didn't happen until I was a young adult. I sang other people's songs, and then all of a sudden I realized that maybe I had something to say as well. And since then, um, I've been part of a performing group, Motherlode, that has performed together since 1980. We still host music camps for women twice a year, and do an occasional concert now. But so both my voice as a songwriter and that sort of performing life of the opportunity to share the songs that we think are important with other people. And I don't know about Geof, but for me, I always feel like as I'm singing a song, there's someone in that audience that needs to hear that song, whether it's one that I wrote or whether it's one that I've chosen because I admire the writing or I admire the message in the song. So I'm always thinking about who is out there for whom this particular song is the one that they really needed to hear, and that maybe that's why they were brought to this particular concert. And I would say one more thing. I've had the delight of singing with Geof for quite a number of years, and singing harmony with him is one of my very favorite things on earth to do. And I had the blessing of being the backup singer on his most recent album, and that was so much fun. So we're trying to bring some of that fun and joy, and also the tender messages in the songs to your community.
Beautiful.
Thank you, Marie. I like Marie because for us to have collectively 100 years, we had to start early because neither of us is quite that close to 100 yet. But I started playing in high school in the same and played through college, did folk music. Started in the mid '60s. My older brother dropped out of high school, went to New York, and we bought a guitar together. And both started playing. I was 14, and at that time, folk music was a big thing, and played by myself. I think I've always been fairly shy and reclusive as by nature, and so playing by myself in my room was perfect for me, and practicing. But music brought me into a community of people to sing with, and I fell in love with country music, Merle Haggard, Hank Williams, and I moved to Nashville, and then was a commercial songwriter for a few years, and then started getting involved in the pro-feminist men's movement, and started writing songs about the changing roles of men and women and trans folks, and moved to Bellingham, Washington in 1982, and that's when I met Marie and fell in love with her music and Motherlode, and became part of a rich musical community there, and had to pause with my musical career. Well, it wasn't much of a career, as the IRS noted to me. You have to actually make money to call it to claim it with the IRS, and they said for 3 years, if you haven't done it, you might want to think about what that means. Mm-hmm. So I did social service work and community work with substance abuse prevention and children and families work, and then in about 6-7 years ago, started writing more, have semi-retired out of the community work, and have got involved with some creative nonfiction writing, and have just been in love with what writing both songs and essays and personal memoir can bring to the questions of this time in my life, to what it is. It's a great time to reflect, I think, and I've been blessed to have the opportunity to do that, and to sing with Marie in the last few years has been a real gift for me. We have kind of discovered that we like to sing together, and so we've looked for every opportunity. So this is to come to Winthrop to do this is very exciting for us. And I'm looking forward to sharing the joy that we have and the exploration that we have. Plus, I just want to say, as Marie has been one of my musical inspirations for years as a songwriter and a performer and a thought partner in all that we do. So I'm delighted to be working with her in this weekend we're coming up.
Oh, I love how for both of you, you speak to music kind of as a medicine. And I think that that is so true for so many of us, whether we're just receiving the music or creating the music and harmonizing. And the joy in harmonizing. Do you find that you two practice and hone your harmonies, or are you sort of like reaching, you hear a line in your mind and then you reach for it and sing it? Yeah, is there a style of harmonizing that
For,
you do?
for me, as soon as Geoff starts to sing, it's like there's a little click, and I can hear that. I can hear that line. And so, I mean, sometimes there's a little part that we have to hone, but mostly it comes quite naturally. And maybe in part because I grew up singing harmony with my brothers, and so that, I hear that line easily from all those years of singing in my family. But I love the way our voices blend. I think it's it's a gift. It doesn't always happen. Even when both people are good singers, it doesn't always happen that the blend works well. But for Geoff and I, it seems to just notch right in there. I love it.
Yeah,
That's
that's
beautiful.
true for me too. I liked your second description of, do you hunt for it? Sometimes I feel like I'm reaching for, where can I go to support Marie's singing when we're singing harmony? Is I'm like, where's the best place for me to support her song? And I love looking for that space, and then when I find it, it's settling in, and it's like, this is I'm home here. And I appreciate what you're saying. I didn't grow up in, there was music in our house. My parents both sang in a church choir. Well, my dad did, but my mom, I would stand next to her and she was an alto. So I'm used to listening to the harmony part because that's what she sang. She didn't sing the melody. So I like that there's a natural, it's like, oh, there's a natural place for this harmony. That's my mom. So I find her when I get to sing with Marie.
That's sweet, Geoff. That's great.
Oh, I know. Yeah, it's even for someone like me, completely untrained. There's just so much joy in just driving down the road and trying different things out, especially with a song like you're saying, Marie, that really speaks to me. And it's interesting. I don't know. I've always felt like music held some sort of magic, and a lot of times it will be like the song that comes in on the radio that was just the thing that I needed to hear, either with the lyrics or something. Or I'll be thinking of one of my loved ones, who I'm missing, who's not with us anymore. And then boom, here comes their favorite song or something. Like there's just a lot of magic
Hmm. There's something
within
about
music. And
there's something
so
about mute.
I love that this is your, yeah,
Hmm. I
go,
was,
go ahead.
I was going to say that there's something about music. I think that it's like it goes in under the breastbone and holds the heart. It just slides in there. Doesn't necessarily go through the brain. It just comes straight into the heart space often, and that's for me when it's really happening in the way that I hope for, in either just when I'm singing by myself or with Geoff or when we're performing. When I can feel that happen, that it's just landing in the heart, then I know we're in the right space. And I love that.
That's beautiful. Because Yeah, it's been said, and I think there's a lot to this, that the journey from here to here is the longest one someone could take in their life. So, yeah, I'd love to. Okay, Geof, you spoke a little bit to some of your inspirations in the country, Merle Haggard and Hank Williams. Any other inspirations you want to bring to this conversation here, you two?
Well, there were so, back in the folk music days, there were just so many songwriters, Joni Mitchell, Bob Dylan, Phil Oakes, Pete Seeger,
Mhm.
and uh, and I, as songwriters later, Bruce Phillips and Rosalie Sorrells and um, Alice Gerrard, just a ton of people who were writing exactly what I appreciate what Marie said, is they were writing what I needed to hear. And I thought, and Steve Goodman, just some people, just amazing. Um, when I moved to Nashville, Guy Clark and Townes Van Zandt, and some, there were a lot of songwriters who, what I noticed was, um, what I've heard said, and I think is true, is sometimes when we don't hear a song we need, then we have to become a songwriter.
Yeah.
We have to write the song we need, and and songs that we need, if it lands well, then it's one that we can share with others, because we are not certainly not the only one with the experiences we have going through what we're going through. There are so many common experiences that we get then to bring to others, and share with others, and see, as Marie said, hoping it will land well the way it lands for us. And now, and I'll just say, since I moved to Bellingham, Marie, uh, our friend Carrie Elion, Richard Schultz, Tom Hunter, um,
Mhm.
just tons of songwriters. I have, well, I'll put it this way: I've lived long enough and been playing music long enough that there are so many great people to be inspired by. It
Yeah.
is the delight of this time, is that there are so many young people coming up who are just saying brilliant, wonderful things that I um, get to delight in and be inspired by as well. So I'm glad I'm still around to do this,
Mhm.
to be a part of that.
Beautiful. Marie, how about you? Any
Well,
inspiration?
the list that Geof ticked off is certainly, on my list as well. And uh, some of the um, women songwriters like Gillian Welsh and
Mhm.
the Billie Eilish that are writing now and writing in ways that I think are quite remarkable are an inspiration. And I, I've always had my ear out for the way that a song can be particular enough to someone's experience that I understand it, but open enough that it lets me enter with my own experience. And I think and when Geof and I are working with our songwriting group, that's part of what we think about for each other is how much, how much can this song be a kind of a wider envelope to hold someone else's experience, not just my own particular one. And that's the goal. It's a goal in any good writing, I think, whether it's memoir writing or creative nonfiction or poetry writing, is that there's enough particularity that it grounds it in a real part of life, but that it's also open enough that someone else can enter in, either to witness an experience I might not have had, but to witness it in a way that I can understand a little bit of the author's journey, or perhaps it takes me on my own journey into a place that I need to go.
Absolutely. There's yeah, I have a few, favorite bands that I've been listening to that music and it's been speaking to me throughout my whole life. And every time I hear it played live, especially live, it's I'm always shocked at the way like a really good song can speak to me in a different way, even though maybe I've heard it thousands of times already. And there's still something in the songwriting. Do you say there's a particularity, but there's like an openness so that it can continue to grow, with people. Um, yeah, let's shift and talk a little bit about these three words that you two have chosen, because it really speaks to me, grace, grief, and gratitude. I mean, I love alliteration. There's that piece, but they really, yeah, the sandwiching of these three things and as a theme to dive into. Yeah, what do these words mean to you two, and just how did you land with them?
Well, I don't think it's an accident that grief is sandwiched between the grace and gratitude. I think that's something that Geof and I have talked about, and certainly our friend Charmin, who was kind of that person that got us first thinking about coming to Winthrop. We've been involved in helping people through many life's transitions, not just dying, but all those challenging parts of life. And certainly Geoff's work in the community as a community organizer, he worked a lot on child abuse issues and the kinds of ways that multiple kinds of losses show up in families and in our lives. And I think part of what we want to explore is how grief is not just sorrow and despair. It is also a pathway to grace and to gratitude. And I think that's part of why I think that they ended up in that order as we were thinking about them. I don't know, Geof, if you have something you want to add to that.
No, that's well said, Marie. So I think Marie and I both find thinking about these three words and this time of life, and it's not just this time of life, but in general, there's a way in which it's incredible. It's important to be asking the questions that we still need to be asking, and exploring what it means to be here and passing through this life that we now see as we know has a beginning and an end on this plane at least, and to celebrate all of that. And what are the stories that we need to share with each other to help us as we go through the middle and end this time. And that I was reminded this morning of it was an adverse childhood experience study done by Rob Anda and Vincent Folletti, and they asked questions of patients about what their childhood had been like. And there was one 83-year-old woman who said, after she finished the interview, said, "I thought I was going to die before anybody ever asked me what happened."
Wow.
And we can't let that happen with each other. There are things we need to tell each other now, because that's how we get through this, to know we're not alone, that the grief we feel, the gratitude, and the grace we feel is what we share, and what it is to be here and to be really present in this life. And so to celebrate, in a sense, all of that is it's not about avoiding anything. It's about actually going through it together.
Absolutely. And I think that there's something too about, the amount that we are open to experiencing our sorrow is conversely related to the amount that we're open to experiencing the joy. Exactly. And so, how do we keep meeting everything that life is going to throw our way and not let it contract us into a hard place? And I love that concept, that feeling of, the power of story to restore ourselves, restory ourselves in a way. And that maybe something has happened to us and has put us into this contracted, protected place of being a victim, but maybe there's a way through telling the story that we can see the larger picture of some of these pieces and utilize it to open us up to like something bigger, like compassion for our fellow humans.
So,
Yeah.
Tracy, that brings to mind, I know one of the events that we're going to do is a poetry reading. And for me, that experience that you talked about of taking something that was so painful and using the restorying, the telling of the story to heal heal some of my sorrow. One of the book of poems that I will be reading from is called What Falls Away Is Always, and it's a book of poems I wrote after my beloved brother died. Um, he had a catastrophic fall, became a quadriplegic, and eventually died. And my sorrow at losing him, one of my closest people in my life, one of my touchstones. The writing of the poems helped me negotiate my place back to the gratitude that I had him for as long as I had him, and the grace of the relationship we had. So uh, I just personally have experienced deeply exactly what you're talking about, the power of using writing as a tool to move your way through, not to get over, because you never get over that kind of grief, but to put it in a different place in your world so that it's no longer um, tripping you every time you turn the corner.
Right. Yeah. Well said. I know I dropped off for a second there. Hopefully, everything just stayed smooth on the technological piece. Thanks, everyone, for the patience with the technology. So I'm also curious about your experience as educators. Marie, I know, Geof, it sounds like you have been an educator in certain regards, and Marie, you definitely have that title, as professor. And so I'd love to hear more about your experience as educators and just what you love about that work. And
Why don't you go first this time, Geof?
Oh, well, mostly, um, as you know, I've taught workshops and a lot of different themes: suicide prevention, adverse childhood experiences, the science of hope, um, and songwriting. Taught songwriting on and off for many years. What I love in all of this is when people, we're talking a little bit about this, like when we when people start to open up with each other, that sense of I'm alone disappears.
Mhm.
That my experience is a human experience, not only mine, and I'm not isolated. I am, there's a, there's the, there's a sense of isolation that can come from grief,
Mhm.
that, and hard
yeah,
and pain, that, that is, that I love in the writing. There isn't almost any story that anybody carries that they aren't surprised when, first of all, I love watching people discover their voice when they write of
Mhm.
any kind. When people are like, whoa, look what I did. It's so exciting because people are often surprised by themselves when they take the time to actually um, use writing in either songwriting or creative nonfiction or essay writing or poetry to find their voice and go after what it is they're not even sure what they're going after, but they find it. They find something, and in that discovery is so exciting, and which draws me back to is like I don't know how good I am at this. I just want to make sure that I get to be around it when it happens. I mean, that's,
Mhm.
I don't, I think in a sense to be the most exciting part about teaching is to hear what the students do.
Mhm.
And I hope that the prompting of that we use in the workshops the workshop that we do and in the singing we do is something that prompts them to feel connected to themselves. And then when they share what they have written with others, I think people are startled with how many people say, "Oh yeah, me too."
Mhm.
That's boy, you said you you know uh, killing me softly with your words,
Mhm.
strumming my
Exactly.
fate with your fingers. That
Yep. Yep. So for me, I was a faculty member at Western Washington University for over 40 years. I spent quite a long time at Fairhaven College, which is the college where students come to write their own degree programs. And boy, what a wonderful batch of students those young people were. And I had the joy of teaching memoir writing and creative songwriting. I got to teach a class on death and dying, a class on food pathways, where your food comes from and over whose back you walk to eat it. And like Geof, for me, the great joy was always watching the students find their voice and find the ways for them to wrestle their own ideas down onto a piece of paper. And I think both Geof and I, over all those years of working that way, I think we've found some prompts that usually help even those people that think they're not writers. Like, and there are a lot of people say, I don't write, I don't write, I don't write. But you give them a chance to just do a little free writing and in a guided way, and they are often astonished by what shows up on the page when they just open that door uh, and let what's in there start to come. So I've loved being a teacher. The role that I have at the Palliative Care Institute is also a teaching role. So my primary role is to work with both providers and community members
I'm s-
around issues of serious illness and end of life, and trying to help us be better prepared for that transition as it happens for our community.
Again and again, the importance of that work, and also I think it's starting to shift just a little bit, but we definitely historically live in a culture that is very discomfort averse.
Mhm.
And so it's a little bit of a hard sell. It's a little bit of a hard sell to turn towards,
Yep.
towards that pain. And because that's kind of human nature. We definitely have that knee jerk reaction of like, that's not fun. I'm not
Yeah, I don't want to
doing
see it.
that work right now. Why would I do that work? I'm alive. I'm going to live. But there's something about turning towards it and doing the work that opens us up more to life as
Exactly.
well. That gives us a sense of like more ease in our life, knowing that we are more prepared. And if we make the passage suddenly, or you know that hopefully it will be easier also for our loved ones who are left behind, that they know that we did that work.
Yes.
But it's a tough sell.
Mm.
um, so here's my next question. What did lead you to become a champion for palliative care in your community?
Mm. Um, that you said it very well just a second ago, Tracy, that we are a fairly death averse culture where we don't want to talk about serious illness or death. And yet each one of us will experience something like that at some point in our lives. Either, I mean, obviously we will all die, but even the serious illness part, most of us have an experience, if not in our own bodies, with the bodies of our loved ones, of negotiating those things. And um, like everything else, the more we talk about those events and the things that lead up to them, and the barriers there are to negotiating those with as much grace as possible, the harder it will be. And so I got involved first through teaching this class on death and dying, which I taught for 20 years at Fairhaven, and watching my young students, and most of the students at Fairhaven were traditional age students at the time, watching them become aware of the ways that their parents and grandparents, and for some of them, their peers, were negotiating serious illness or dying, and how much more grounded they seemed to feel by the end of the course. It pulled me into that work. Then Western opened a nursing program, and that the person who came to chair that nursing program is a gerontological nurse, and she pulled together people from across the campus and in the community and said, we need to be doing more work around this out in our community. And it started in a number of different workshops. Geof and our friend Richard and I did some early ones, fostering community conversations about end of life through the kind of conversation cafe model. And Geof and Richard and I and some other musicians hosted concerts called Moving the Bones, lively songs about death. There are a million songs about dying, some of them funny, some of them sad, some of them ironic or wry. And so we just tried to find all the different ways we could begin to bring those conversations up in community settings that were not necessarily a lecture, but just ways to move that conversation along. And it's been a delight for me to continue to do this work.
Thank you for doing the work. It really is just so important. And yeah. Geof, any?
Well, and Maria's been a champion, and I've gotten to participate with her, and I agree that idea of how do you normalize this so that people feel prepared, and when they're not prepared, they feel that it's okay to not be prepared, but to learn as we go, because there's too much conversation about, well, we don't need to reinvent the wheel. Actually, that's what we're here to do, is keep reinventing it. And our lives are the reinventing and the retelling of the stories, and sharing those with each other, so that because we're here together to do this. So telling, here's what happened to me yesterday, and to make every day the experience of, so what are the experiences we're all sharing, part of our everyday conversation. So we get to be present completely as we pass through this world.
Yeah.
Thank you for that reminder, that it's okay if we haven't prepared, and that, we can at any moment lean in and learn and expand and to open up. So what can somebody who's either going to sign up for the workshop or come to the concert or the poetry reading, maybe we could take one at a time. What maybe can they expect? I think there's people who are like, what is this? Grace, grief, and gratitude. What?
You want to go first, Marie?
Sure. So, well, let's start with the workshop. So, Geof and I, as we indicated, we both have plenty of experience in hosting workshops, and I think both of us have always centered the participant in the center. So it's not going to be a lecture, it's going to be very hands-on, but hopefully with enough prompts and enough scaffolding that those little doors will begin to open for people who come. So I think someone who's an experienced writer could still find something. there, because we're going to be delving into some topics that perhaps they haven't been writing about. This notion of the way writing can help you process a story that perhaps you've been afraid to tell, or a story that has been lurking in the back of your mind that you've been longing to tell, but haven't yet had the opportunity to do so. But I think also someone who's never done a writing workshop, but just is kind of curious about the role that writing can have in unpacking a little puzzle in your mind, could also come in and benefit from it. I don't know if you want to add anything, Geoff.
No, that's great. The idea that language is how our naming of things is how we understand, and how we come to terms and communicate with others about what's inside and what we're seeing, and how we what we and one of the things that I will expect from people is that they will be delighted when they hear what other people have written, because everybody takes a different part of the elephant and describes it. and it's like the world gets bigger when you listen to all of the different ways that people see it and feel it and experience it, and taste it and remember it. When our family gets together, until everybody's spoken, we don't know what the family experience was. There isn't one person who carries it. We carry all different pieces of it. We all come from different families, but we are one family when we tell the story. Each of us is finished telling our story, then it's a whole. And I think that Marie and I love setting it up so that people feel they can participate in that easily without it being, oh, you have to be a writer. No, you just have to be somebody who's lived and is willing to put words to their experience on paper. So.
Wonderful. And yeah, how about the concert? Because that's something that Met How at Home, we also are in conversation with some of the different folks within our community who are caring for those who are going through different transitions or serious illness. So it'll be an opportunity for people to come and meet some of the volunteers in our Lookout Coalition. Also, Mallory Brandenburg, who's our community caregiver liaison and works with Jamie's Place, will be there, as well as finding out a little bit more about what's happening with our Cascade Natural Burial group. They will be there, and hopefully a couple of our local death doulas and hospice volunteers will be there as well. So that will be part of the concert experience. And any other
So I would
things
say
to say about
that we're thrilled that we're able to support all that wonderful work that's happening in your community, Tracy. I think that's a wonderful thing. Geoff and I have picked songs that sort of span the range of emotions. There are some songs of delight, and they can expect a lot of good harmony, some terrific guitar playing. Geoff is a wonderful guitar player. And I think there are some songs that delve right into the questions that we've been talking about. And there are others that are there because they can bring delight and grace.
And do you too? I always love it when musicians do a little storytelling with the music as well. Do you two tend to do that, or?
Yeah, there's often a story about why that song got written, and for the most part, these will be songs that either Geoff or I have written. There's one or two that are from other songwriters we admire, but largely they're songs that either Geoff or I have written. And our friend Charmin is going to join us on the third harmony on a couple of the songs. So that will be really fun for us.
That's great.
And I'll just say, music for me is healing, and so we would hope that people feel connected to that and feel that there is some healing that can come from the music. And I guess when somebody says, "Oh, your song made me cry," and I go, "Oh, good," because
maybe you needed to,
Yeah.
yeah.
that was the intent. Some of them make me cry too. So, and I think that's one of the ways that we experience this world is through the joy and grief that come from with tears, and the gratitude that comes from tears. So hope people laugh a little bit. Well, and so I think people will hope I hope they have as much fun as we do.
Fantastic. And then the poetry reading on Sunday.
Yeah, so as I mentioned previously, one of the volumes is this volume of poems that I wrote for my brother. The other two, also written in the last couple of years. One came out of the pandemic. It's called Following the Line. And I have been graced to be part of a daily writing group where we give each other prompts from other people's poems and then write together. And this book really collects the poems written over the 3-year period of the pandemic. And then the most recent one, called Be Here Now, is very much poems that reflect on what it means to grow older in this community, both the things to celebrate and be delighted by, but also some of the challenges. So I'll be reading from all 3 of those volumes.
Fantastic. Oh, you too. Thank you so much for this time this morning. I really am I'm excited to meet you in person. And we'll get into the full dimensionality of ourselves coming up in this upcoming weekend. So, and I hope that the people watching are inspired to come to one or all of these events and to just bask in this conversation, this ongoing conversation of what it means to be human together and be real and transform through it. Let it transform us. So with that, we'll see you too soon.
Okay, thank you, Tracy. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, you too. I'm going to stop and just one sec here.